Hey everyone, I've shared today's agenda in the chat, and if you see that, please don't forget to add your name to the attendees list. And I think we've got a good enough crowd to get going. Welcome everybody to this month's user dev meeting. Happy to see you all. Today's topic will be exploring stretch clusters, uh, including current capabilities, but also focusing on use cases and capabilities that go beyond stretch mode. And this is in response to the discussion we had last month, where there were a lot of users that were really interested in stretch mode and how it can be used. And we were really happy with to hear the discussion there and that people are using it. So um, I've invited Junior here today to talk about stretch clusters and the current work that's going on, and just high level what's kind of in store for it. But then this can also be an open discussion for anybody who has interest in stretch clusters, stretch mode, and wants to uh, talk about anything they'd like to. So, but we'll start it off with Junior. Go ahead.
Hi everyone. So one of the things that is in progress right now is supporting 3 availability zones search cluster. So if you look at these PR, basically we have a problem when it comes to a potential problem when it comes to supporting a 3 zones stretch cluster. And basically, let me just give you, how about I share my screen, it'd be easier. I'll just share my screen. Okay. Can you see like a tracker?
Yeah.
Okay, sure, cool. So there is a problem where a scenario of 3 availability zones, where if you have, let's say, 9 OSDs and it's stretched across 3 zones, so around 3 OSDs per data center, and with a min size of 3, 6 replicas, so we would store 2 copies on each zones. Sorry, I'm using zones and data center interchangeably. Data centers. So an example is that when you look at an acting set of an OSD, you would have like 6 slots, right? Typically 2 from let's say data zone A, 2 from data zone B, 2 from data zone C, and there could be a moment where a failure where both DZA and DZB becomes unavailable due to maybe power failure. And okay, you are left with an acting set of an OSD from C, so C1 and C2, and somehow there's a shift in the raw mapping, which result in a third OSD from DCC to come into the acting set. Now, there could be a scenario where we request a temp mapping, a PG temp, while backfilling C3. And after the backfill is completed, you're ended up with 3 OSDs in acting set left. Which what this means is that with min size of 3, this PG could go active and start accepting writes, which is this basically breaks the data integrity of Ceph, which, because if DCC loses power and you accept writes, you lose that forever. So what I did is that I came up with a solution. Me and Sam and Greg came up with a solution where you can set. So there are existing mechanics in stretch mode, which allows us to basically specify the maximum number of OSDs from the same kind of like failure domain, which in this case is data center, to be in the acting set. So basically what I'm trying to do is allowing users, depending on the, the amount of availability zones, could be 3 or 2, you are able to set on each pool, like what's the maximum number of like OSDs from the same zone you are allowed to be in the acting set in a high level. So yeah, we have a new command, which is Ceph OSD pool stretch set, which it takes in the pool name, the peering crushed bucket count, and peering crushed bucket target. So these two things, I need to make it more clear, but basically it will be two values that calculate for bucket max. Currently, I didn't show how the calculation works. It's still like implicit in the code, but obviously, I think I'll make it more clear in the documentation. So you also have bucket barrier, which is basically it could be like data center, it could be zones. Crush rule, it has to be a stretch crush rule, obviously, and the size, the replication size. The example I use is 6, min size is 3, and basically you create a pool first, and you kind of also define the crush rule, and you basically input this command, execute this command, and now basically your pool is now a stretch cluster, which is able to limit the amount of OSDs from the same data center in the acting sets to prevent the case that I was talking about before on the tracker to happen. There are other commands as well, such as stretch pool unset, which basically allows you to go back to a normal pool instead of a stretch pool. And we have like OSD pool stretch show, which basically shows you all the data details of stretch related details, such as these variables, and also yeah, size, min size, and everything like that. Let's see. Yeah, so this PR basically has the feature that I talked about, and we also have an auxiliary PR that kind of like is used in conjunction with the main PR in order to. So this one is more like a bug fixing thing, which we came across. It's not 100% complete yet because I can see that Sam commented a bunch of stuff on it. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about that, yeah, let me know. I can move on to another thing that I want to talk about.
Okay. Not a question from me, but that sounds super great for a kind of problem that we ran into where we were running Ceph in Azure, and Azure would take down racks of virtual machines for maintenance events, and this was like a big worry, and actually stopped us shipping in the end.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm glad that it is a useful feature. Obviously, I'm trying to make it the documentation to be more clear and everything like that. But if you have any questions or anything, feel free to chime in on the actual PR or just reach me directly. Okay, moving on to next thing. Let's see, there was a bug fix that is to do with stretch mode, where basically when you're doing net split, let me just share my screen again so that people can see what I'm talking about. Let's see. Or it's already shared, I guess. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so imagine you have two data centers with running on stretch mode with a third data center only containing one tiebreaker monitor. So each data center has two monitors, and there is a net split scenario between DC1 and DC2. What we find is that through testing is that sometimes we get stuck in election forever, and obviously that's a very concerning thing, because you are not able to without quorum in the monitors, you won't be able to even contact the cluster ever, because you need monitors in order to do any type of like clients, read writes, and any commands that you want to use. So the problem was that when we are trying to elect a leader amongst the monitors, and imagine monitor E being the tiebreaker is able to talk to both data centers, so DC1 and DC2, but DC1 and DC2 are not able to talk to each other. So you can imagine that how we are choosing the leader is based on what we call connectivity score. So each monitor would have a copy of other monitor score. So A would have a copy of B, C, D, and also E, based on how if the ping that they are sending to each other are able to reach each other or not within a given period of time is given a score. So obviously monitor E can't be the leader because it's the tiebreaker, but obviously it would have the best score because it is able to connect to everyone. So imagine this scenario happened, this net split scenario happens, and for some reason C, D, and E shows are able to form quorum, and A and B is kept in the dark. So that's the start. So you think everything is fine. We have quorum, IO is going, you're able to talk, use any commands to Ceph, but in mod A and mod B is kept in the dark. So we have this thing called like epoch number, and A and B would have a higher epoch number because it thinks that C, D, and E is probably down or whatever, and they're still together, so they keep on proposing to each other and starting new elections. While C, D, and E are happy with lower epoch because they're able to form quorum. So A and B has much higher epoch than C, D, and E, and there is an instance where there is a mod map change where monitor A and B is now going to send some kind of proposal to Mon E because it's still able to talk to Mon E, and Mon E would kind of like take that into account, even though it shouldn't. And Mon E would see that Mon A and Mon B has a very high epoch, which it will say like, oh, I'm so behind, so I'm gonna keep starting a new election. So what that does is that it will create a cycle, so of never-ending election. So in order to solve that problem of never-ending cycle of election due to money being susceptible to the monitors that are kept in the dark for a long time, with certain scenarios happening, I created a PR that would solve this problem. And what we do is basically we disregard any kind of proposal that is coming from a monitor that has been down, has been marked as down, and be kept in the dark. So they won't get the chance to force this tiebreaker to increase the epoch, which this works well because tiebreaker is a special case monitor. It won't be ever get elected to the leader. So yeah, I put some tests into it and it doesn't break anything else much. So yeah, that's another very concerning bug that we fixed. Yeah, if you have any questions about that, I think that is all for two main things that we have been working on. Yeah.
Thanks, Junior. Any questions from anybody or any comments?
Thanks, Julian, for explaining all the work that's in the pipeline. Just wanted to emphasize, like, the first piece of information that Junior shared is beyond the stretch mode. So essentially, this is an idea of creating a synchronous 3AZ solution based on Ceph. And clearly, there were some corner cases where Ceph couldn't handle it. 2AZ is pretty much a common use case that we've seen users use, but 3AZ was uncommon. And clearly, we had to make some changes to the code so as to not have all the replicas be in one data center and the PGs go active, right? That's not what you want in terms of invariance. So that's also the reason we wanted to share it with the community, because it kind of enables a new use case for Ceph. I'm curious, is anybody here? There's a poll if folks want to take it. Is anybody here using a stretch cluster based Ceph based solution? I know I heard somebody happy about the work being done, but anybody else? If not, maybe this will enable folks to use it.
Yeah, Junior, I maybe it'd be helpful to talk about just the most important use cases for it, or why people would want to use it, because I feel like that context just helps in understanding, even for me, the motivation behind stretch clusters in general.
Yeah, I think the motivation behind stretch cluster is that it solves what we call like split brain problem, where you have like maybe three monitors and they're not able to agree on to elect like a leader, and so with stretch mode we have this connectivity score, which allows you to have a tiebreaker, and basically kick off like one data center that, let's say like there's a data center that failed, and or there's net split scenario, and you're not able to choose between who should form a quorum, and so, or choose a surviving data centers where you want clients to be able to serve IO. So it probably solved that problem, like where you're able to kick off one data center and continue serving IO with just choosing the other data center to be the primary. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bird's eye view explanation of why stretch clusters are needed is because of resiliency, right? Like, essentially, the idea is to geographically separate your replicas so as to deal with disasters, failures of some sort. And essentially, when we talk about disasters, there are other ways in Ceph to deal with this in terms of asynchronous solutions, which are implemented at the application layer. Like RGW has multi-site replication, where the idea is that you write to one site and then you copy to the other side. Here, the difference is that this is synchronous. So essentially, anytime a client is reading, it is getting the latest data. There are also things like localized reads, where you can, if you have a client which is closer to one of the AZs, you can ask Ceph to use the local copy instead of the primary, which may not be located in the same AZ. So there are optimizations in Ceph that can add together to provide a solution to geographically separate your replicas, deal with failures, but continue to serve IO. So one of the example, like the initial example that Junior gave, was about 3 data centers and putting 2 copies in each. The idea is that if you lose one data center, you are available in terms of PGs being able to serve IO. If you lose, and if you have some sort of maintenance happening in your second available AZ, you can still continue to do IO because your min size is going to be 3, right? Like with 6 replicas, min size 3, you can still continue to run IO. So the corner case that we are trying to address here is about losing the second data center and not going active with all 3 replicas in one AZ. So that essentially kind of foolproofs the invariance of the solution that users will want from such a use case. Does that at a high level make sense?
Yeah. That's a really good explanation. Thank you, Naya.
And just to highlight how we've gotten, or how we appreciate feedback from the user community. This tracker specifically was brought to the user dev meeting, I believe last month, and it involves stretch crush rules. And oftentimes when there's a bug with that deals with deals with certain crush rules and or stretch crush rules, or I mean crush rules in general, but this one was stretch particular. It's important for us to get data from real users, and for when users feel comfortable sharing their crush rules with us, so that we can help work those into our tests, and so that we're covering all of the corner cases. So you can check out that tracker if you'd like, but and this applies to all areas of issues that we're trying to tackle in the user dev meetings here. But anytime there can be that interaction where we're getting real world configurations directly from the users, that's really, really helpful to developers. And so I just wanted to highlight that that is one thing that came from the user dev meeting regarding stretch clusters. And this issue in particular is being tracked for something that was brought up directly from here.
Oh yeah, I am aware of that tracker. Sorry, and also I've been actually testing locally on my end with using the class as a crush rule and replicating the problem, and I did successfully reproduce the problem, and I'm currently looking to if we need what kind of solutions can be tackled so that it works with a crush rule with class for specified devices. Yep.
Cool. Thanks again, Junior, for explaining all the work that's going on, and it'd be really interesting to see the growth of stretch cluster usage, stretch mode usage, and beyond. And we'd really like to hear if anybody from this call or elsewhere starts using it, and we'd love to hear your feedback. And always come to these meetings, to follow up, even if we're on to a different topic. You can always bring up stuff like that. Does anybody, I just wanted to check in with the crowd. Does anybody have any questions or additional comments for Junior or for any one of us?
Quick question, Junior. We should be able to, if we have to look at our telemetry data to see if somebody is using stretch mode or not, or like how big the user base is, we should be able to do that, right? It's a separate flag that is set.
Yes, I believe yes, there is a flag for that. Yes, I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, I think the general stretch use case, we may not be able to figure that out. We might have to dig deeper into crush rules, etc. But just the stretch mode should be doable.
Yes.
Just the thought that came to my mind.
Yep. For a stretch cluster, like the general one, yeah, if you are able to look at the crush rule, and then that you can tell if it's a stretch cluster or not.
All right. So it looks like there are no more questions or comments about stretch mode. So we can. I do see there's a second topic that was added about RGW async bucket notifications and updating endpoints. Does somebody want to speak on that?
Yeah, hello. Thanks. Yeah, so we're trying to replace PubSub just now, which was removed in Reef. We're using it in our application, and we're trying to stop using it and move to the new bucket notifications mechanism, and to unblock our path to upgrade to Reef and beyond. So one problem that we've run into is that we kind of relied on the mechanism in PubSub for pulling notifications, and that is gone in the new kind of the new world of bucket notifications as I understand it. And what I was hoping to be able to do was to change our topic endpoint to redirect notifications from away from a failed server to a working server. But that doesn't seem to be possible. It seems like the endpoint is kind of stored along with the event at the time the event is generated. So if we have a failed kind of endpoint, we can't redirect events that have not been delivered to it. So I wondered if anyone else had run into this kind of issue, or if there was any wider opinion on this kind of limitation.
We do have somebody from RGW here, Casey. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I do remember some RGW discussions around duplicating the endpoint info in the notification entries, and I think there has either been work around that or plans to work around that. Not sure on the current status though.
It did look like a kind of active area. I've been digging through Git a little bit over the past few days, and it looked like it's been modified within at least the last few months. So yeah, it's somewhat active.
The Squid release is going to have a lot of notification related changes, and part of that includes getting more information out of the topic metadata, like endpoint stuff, instead of copying everything into every notification entry.
And do you think that will include the ability to redirect events after they've been created?
I think so. Yes. You mean like the topic metadata changes the endpoint?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. We do expect to handle that.
Okay, that's great news to hear. Thanks very much. I'll keep an eye out for that.
And just at the mention of Squid, the first RC was recently released, 1910. So since there are RGW notification fixes there, if you're interested in trying out the new RC, that might be a good motivation. We've also got another RGW related topic. Oh, yes, I see. Thank you. There's another RGW notification topic here about a multi-site issue, and there's a tracker shared here. We can talk about the tracker, but does whoever put that on the agenda want to give some context? I see Jainath who unmuted, but we can't hear any sound. If somebody's speaking, I still can't hear sound. Okay, if there's a problem, you can type in the chat, but we can just, I guess, talk about this tracker then. Slow RGW multi-site sync due to 304 not modified responses on the primary zone. And it looks like this was raised 4 months ago. And the last comment is just awaiting a resolution of the issue. So, Casey, I don't know if RGW has looked at this issue yet or not. Oh, I see there's a problem with your mic. Jana, did you have any particular question around this tracker aside from maybe a resolution to it, or if it's been looked at? You can just give a thumbs up or a thumbs down or something. All right, let's say we have one byte of objects in the primary zone and the second zone has caught up with 200 M and there is an RGW daemon restart. The sync doesn't start immediately. $1 billion, thanks. Yeah, so I think the RGW team would have to take a look at this issue. No worries.
This one may be worth bringing up in Slack, whether more RGW folks who are aware of this ticket present.
Yep. I'll tag it with what I do with trackers that come up in the user dev meeting is I tag it with a user dev tag just so we can keep track of things. So I'll do that now, and we can share this in the Slack there. All right, done. While we're waiting for Janeth to rejoin. Oh, okay. No, never mind. Oh, I do see Janeth. Yeah. Oh, I see a separate question. Will there be a subsequent release of Quincy? Yes, we are working on a new point release of Quincy. So I believe the next Squid RC is coming first, but that is going to be in our pipeline. And yes, Neha has shared the Slack channel we have a channel specifically for the user dev meetings. So if you haven't already, you can join there. Janeth, I've seen you've rejoined. Do you want to try your mic again?
Yes, Laura. Am I audible?
Yes. Awesome.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Hello. I wanted to discuss with Cassie, I believe, right? So, the Cassie, the thing is, we have two zones, master and secondary. These are active zones. Let's say master zone has around 500 million objects, and we get a secondary zone working. The sync or the asynchronous replication actually happens, without any issues. Let's say there is a problem with the link. It can be a cross data center link, that is binding the primary and the secondary zones, or even there is a daemon restart of RJWs. Let's say there was a site failure or anything. What happens is that, let's say a secondary zone picked up around 250 million objects that are successfully copied into the secondary zone. Like, let's say secondary zone failed or whatever, there was a link outage or anything. Let's say we try to resume the operation, RJW daemons try to resume the operation. It doesn't actually happen. So what happens is that the secondary zone, for some reason, actually tries to list or at least compare the objects in the primary zone. And I mean, in the real world use cases, in the current use case of ours, what we have been observing is that the sync doesn't actually start even for 20 to 30 days. So we are actually stuck there. So at our primary site, we actually see the secondary RJWs making actually trying to get those resources, but the status codes on the primary zone would always be 304. So 200s are very less, but 304s are very high. I would be happy to share this on Slack or somewhere else. Yeah.
Sure, Casey, if you would like to, do you think it'd be best for us to just share this with the rest of the RGW team?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So JNF, I've tagged what I do with trackers that come into the user dev meeting. I tag it with the user dev tag. So I did that for your tracker, just so we know, we can keep track of this. And I think it just needs a further look from the RGW team. I can see that there are only comments from users so far. So I think the team just needs a chance to triage this and take a look.
That's great. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And yeah, we'll share this with the team and just get some feedback on the tracker there. All right. Let's see, that was the last listed topic here. I guess before we conclude, I wanted to ask just one question, since we had recently released the first RC. Is anybody on this call trying it out yet?
Yep. So we have been trying it out, actually. Myself and
Awesome.
teammates. Yep.
Any
And
feedback so far?
I'm assuming you have RGW use cases, or what are you testing against it?
Pretty much the entire thing, actually. RBD, RGW file systems, plus the dashboard part of it. We are pretty much into the dashboard as well. Yep.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yep.
Sorry, Laura, go ahead. You had a question.
Oh, I was curious, same as you, about use cases or any feedback, or if you've noticed anything that should be brought to our attention about it.
I think we are still in the preliminary, I mean, initial stages of testing. I mean, if there is, definitely will get in touch. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that's great to hear. So yeah, if there's we are planning a second RC soon, so that will be announced. And then I'm not sure if we plan to do a third RC after that or go into GA, but at least one more RC will come from this. Thanks, everybody. So just before we wrap up, any final questions or comments or concerns?
I think one has just
All right.
popped up in the tracker. Sorry, the agenda.
Oh, I see. Let me check that. I see. Okay. There are two issues that have come up. So there's a health warn on min size equals 1 with replicated pools, or min size less than k plus 1 with EC pools. Okay. Looks like this is somewhat related to stretch mode based on the last comment on this tracker. So I'll, again, tag it with the user dev tag, and I think the core team would need to take a look into this. And then the second tracker that was listed, this is a documentation tracker, how to get the exact size spec from a device. Okay. Perfect. So this one, we have a documentation lead, Zach Dover. If anybody has met him or heard of him, he's really great about these things. So I'll pass this documentation tracker along to him and see if he can help with this. And also tagging it with user dev. Thanks for bringing those up. Yeah, Friedrich, yeah, those are, you can always bring issues like that here, and we can, it's definitely good to bring those just in case, especially if they haven't been looked at by anybody yet, and it just brings it to our attention. So thanks for bringing those. All right. Any last questions or topics? If not, thanks everybody. This is a really great meeting, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.